Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be talking about what is remote wellness. So we're going to go into detail about what remote wellness actually is, so that way you have a very good understanding of not only the industry, but also what type of career you're getting into. And I'm telling you right now, it's very, very, very exciting stuff, and you are going to be in for a very big treat here in this training. So let's go ahead and dive right in. What is remote wellness? Okay, so like we said, the very first thing we're going to be talking about inside of this training is defining exactly what remote wellness is and why the world and society has gotten it all wrong. Okay, because here's the thing about the definition of remote wellness. Okay, the thing is that most people think that remote wellness is all about health. And the truth is that they could not be any more wrong, okay? Because I'm here to tell you today that public opinion has it completely wrong about what wellness actually is. Now, why is that the case? That is the case because the truth is millions of people every single day struggle with many areas in their life, okay? They get out of bed every single morning knowing what they need to do about blank, right? They know what they need to do about their health. They know what they need to do about their finances. They know what they need to do about their relationships. They know what they need to do about their faith, whatever it might be, right? But they are unable to get themselves to do it. And so there is this painful gap that exists between people knowing what they need to do and them actually doing it, right? So there's this entire gap that exists right here, and that is a painful gap for people to be in because they know what they need to do, but they're not actually able to go ahead and do it. And so this is exactly the reason why Tony Robbins has said that knowledge is not power, right? There's a very famous quote that everybody says knowledge is power. The truth is that knowledge is not power, okay? Knowledge is only potential power. And so the truth is that action is power. And so the difficulty that people have is that they know what they need to do, but they have difficulty actually doing it, right? And so the reason why this problem actually exists, and there's multiple reasons why this exists. The number one reason is because right now we are undergoing one of the most profound shifts in the entire history of the world, okay? And so what has happened is that in the old world, in order for you to learn anything, what you had to do was you had to go over to someone in a white coat, somebody who had some fancy initials after their name, somebody who's gone to some famous university, whatever that might look like. And you had to ask them, okay, well, what am I supposed to do here, right? I don't have the knowledge. You tell me the knowledge. But the truth is that now in today's world, all we do is we literally just open up the supercomputer that we have inside of our pocket. And all we do is we just go ahead and Google it. That's all we do. And so all of a sudden, everyone knows everything. And the thing is that there's no piece of knowledge, period. There's no piece of knowledge that is not a single Google search away, okay? And so this is very different than in the old world, because in the old world, people had such little information. So what they had to do was they had to get very good at executing and taking action on the little piece of information that they had, okay? And so in the old world, the problem was a lack of knowledge. However, in this new world that we live in, right, post smartphone, it's been about 10, 15 years since the iPhone came out, which was the first official smartphone. In this new world, the problem is a lack of action. And so as a result, what ends up happening is that people end up getting stuck being their current selves. What does that mean? They end up being stuck being their current self. So right here, you can see they're their current self. And then what happens is that they're stuck in their current selves, in their current situation, in their current lives, and they have difficulty being able to get to their desired self, their desired situation, their desired life. And the reason for that is, like we said, is because of this gap that exists in between. Now, this is so important to understand because remember, what we're doing here is we're about to define what wellness actually is. And this is why this is so important to understand the backstory of the actual problem that is happening here, okay? So the question then becomes, well, what is wellness, okay? Well, the thing is that wellness is the actual science and art of transformation, okay? Wellness is the art and science of how somebody actually achieves their desired self, okay? It's the process by which we help people achieve that transformation and help them live well, okay? So wellness is about facilitating that transformation, and this is the kicker. This is the big kicker, okay? Whereas most people think that wellness is all about health only, this is the thing, is that it does not matter what area of life you need transformation in, it is still under the umbrella of wellness, okay? So the world and society has gotten this all confused because it does not matter if that wellness is in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships, or even a connection to something that's greater. Because wellness means having a connection with each and every single area of your life, okay? So right here, we can see here that when you have that current situation and that desired situation right here, right? Transformation is that thing that allows that bridge to be between their current self and their desired self. So what that means is that when we open our eyes to this different definition of wellness, we understand that wellness is a lot broader than what most people might actually think. And so when we put it together in a formal definition, what we start to see is that wellness is really about helping people have transformation and live well in what we call each of the 4 areas of life. We're going to go ahead and talk about that here in a second, right? Each of the 4 areas of life by doing 3 things. Number 1, learning the foundations. Number 2, becoming conscious. And number 3, managing stress, okay? And so what we're going to go ahead and do now is let's go ahead and break down each of those 4 pieces inside of that definition. So let's go ahead and first look at the 4 areas of life. Then we're going to go ahead and look at what does it mean when we say learn the foundations, and then also what it means to become conscious, as well as what it means to help people manage stress. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the big 4. So as you might have already guessed, the big 4, which is what we call the areas of wellness, is there are 4 of them, obviously, as the name says, right? So the very first one is what we would typically call health. The second one is called wealth. The third one are relationships. And the fifth one is a connection, not the fifth one. The fourth one is a connection to something greater, okay? So those are the 4 major areas of life, and those are going to also be the 4 major areas of wellness. So let's go ahead and talk about the very first one, which is going to be about health, okay? And so health is really all about your physical well-being. And here's the truth, is that we as a society in today's time, we have become so sedentary, okay? And so much in our brains, right? We think so much, anxiety and depression are at all-time highs. And a lot of that has to do with because we've forgotten that in reality, we are physical beings, right? We are creatures of physical movement, we live in the physical world. And so a lot of things that has happened in modern society today kind of reminds me of that movie WALL-E. If you haven't seen it, it's a great Pixar film in which basically in the future, everyone is just looking at screens, and then they have these drinks that they drink that basically gives them all of their energy, and they just sit down and they're in their chairs all day long. That's literally it. And so the truth though is that we were created to be active, and in the modern world, we've forgotten a lot of that behind our screens and all of the other things that come as demands for our life, okay? And so the truth is that health here, when we talk about health is not only about fitness. We're also talking about nutrition. We're also talking about your inputs, what it is that you are consuming from maybe a social media standpoint. All of that goes under health as well. And then it's all about increasing your energy, your longevity, and then really how to change your physical state so that way you can learn how to be able to change how you feel. Because the thing is that a lot of people don't understand that when you change your physical state, it changes a lot about how you feel, right? So a lot of your feelings come from your physical state as well, okay? So we have these bodies for our entire lives, so it's probably a good idea to learn how to maintain them, right? Okay? And so the truth is, and this is a quote that I always love to remind myself of, is that when you're healthy, you have 1,000 goals, right? You want to do this, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want to do this. But the truth is that when you're sick, you only have one goal. And what is that one goal? Obviously, that is to be healthy. So it does not matter how much money you have, you cannot buy health. And this is why it is such an important area of life. And it is one of the big 4 areas of life. And obviously, you will learn so much more about health in future trainings as well. Okay. So that is the very first of the big 4, which is health. We're now going to go ahead and go into wealth. And so wealth is what is considered is a category of life that is basically relating to everything related to money as well as career related. Let me go ahead and use a smaller one on here. And so everything related to money and career. Okay. So the thing is that it's not always just about making money, right? Just because we say that it's everything related to money, it doesn't mean that it's always related to making money, right? It can also be about managing money. It can also be about how to be more consistent in when you make your money. So not about just making more money, but being consistent in making that money, right? Personal finance and learning to spend less than you make, that is also inside of this category of life, okay? And so also on top of that, it can be related to getting better at your career, right? Career paths, and maybe like, doctors who are getting their masters, or people who are accountants getting their CPAs, whatever that might look like. That is also inside of the category of wealth. So it's not only about business and entrepreneurship. Okay. And then finally, also, once you actually make the money, how do you multiply the money through investment vehicles? That is also inside of the bucket of wealth. Okay. So that is the second of the big 4 areas of wellness and areas of life. We have health, we have wealth, and then the third area is relationships. And relationships are all about the people in our lives. So this basically includes how we communicate, how we influence others, how we deal with others, how to relate with others, how do we have people like us, how do we have them trust us, how to become somebody who is likable, right? You have the ability to be liked, how to become somebody who is trustworthy, somebody who is worthy of being trusted, right? And so this does not have to be only our romantic relationships. This can also be our relationships with our family, our friends, as well as the world as a whole, okay? And so people skills and human interaction, right? So this is all under the category of relationships, okay? So that is the third of the big 4. And then finally, we have the fourth area of life is a connection to something that is greater. Now, whenever I say this, sometimes people think that what I'm talking about is religion. That is not what I am talking about here, okay? The thing is that a connection to something that is greater has to do with the human need for a sense of purpose that is greater than ourselves, okay? So having a connection to something that's greater than ourselves is very, very therapeutic. It's been proven in dozens and hundreds of different studies and peer-reviewed literature. It's something that you have a sense of purpose to, right? Whether that be helping others, whether that be a mission that you have in your life. And that also includes the categories of things like morality, right? Living a wholesome life that's integrous, right? A life that's full of integrity, right? Being able to keep your promises. And that integrity is not only for being able to keep your promises to others, but that also applies to the integrity of keeping your promises to yourself, right? Just remembering that your time on this earth is finite, remembering death and how many of the things that give us meaning, right? The things that a lot of times we put so much emphasis to in our life, right? A lot of times we realize, you know what? Those things don't actually matter when we're faced with our finiteness on this planet. So being able to prioritize those things that do matter, that's what we're talking about when we talk about a connection to that which is greater, okay? And so then the question you might be having is, what are you going to be able to focus on as a remote wellness practitioner? What are you going to first focus on? So what you're going to focus on as a beginner remote wellness practitioner is focusing on facilitating transformation in the area of health, okay? So you're going to be focusing on the area of health first. Why are we going to be focusing on the area of health? Because of the fact that, number one, it's the easiest to provide transformation in, okay? Number two, it's the simplest to get started. And number three, it's the biggest opportunity. Psychology Today has done a study in which they went ahead and found that just 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day of daily walking has enough potential to be able to decrease somebody's likelihood of death by 22%. That is literally how easy it is to be able to provide transformation to somebody inside the category of health. Whereas for relationships, right, if we talk about being able to transform somebody's relationships and wealth, we're talking about being able to help them learn how to make more money, learn how to be able to manage their finances. Relationships, again, not as easy to be able to provide transformation in. But here is the kicker to all of this, and here's the really cool and exciting part about this, is that is not always going to be the case for you, that you only have to stick to health. Because as you grow and expand in your expertise as a remote wellness practitioner, one day you will be so good at being an RWP that you will be able to expand into other areas of life if you decided that you wanted to, okay? But I just do want you to know this, that you do not have to expand into other areas of life in order to get the income that you desire, okay? So you're gonna learn in one of the upcoming future trainings titled Evolution of an RWP that doesn't matter what area of life you choose to provide transformation in, it's completely irrelevant, okay? Because you can literally scale to $3 million plus a year in income in just one of the 4 areas of life. So don't be like, oh, I have to do it in health and that means I can't make the money that I want to do. No, just in health transformation, which is the primary vehicle that you're going to be learning inside of this program and in upcoming trainings, that just by itself is enough for you to scale to $3 million plus per year, okay? And then just as a note, in the future, we will also have training to help you if you decided that you wanted to expand into other areas of the Big Four, but only, and this is a big caveat, only after you have mastered making at least $10,000 to $15,000 a month from the area of health, since it's the easiest to get started in and the easiest to make money in. Okay, so that's very, very important. So let's go ahead and dive now into the definition of wellness, right? The very first part of the definition of wellness was learning the foundations, right? The first part of what we help people with. And the thing about learning foundations is that each of the Big Four, health, wealth, relationships, and something that's greater, has principles, fundamentals, and foundations within it, okay? And so what these are basic foundational concepts that if you learn them, you have an 80 plus percent understanding of what the concepts within that category of life are. Now, let me give you an example because that's a little bit abstract. Let me give you an example of what we're talking about here, okay? So as you will learn later on in this phase, that it actually does not matter what diet somebody follows for the sake of weight loss, because the truth is that the only reason why anybody loses weight is because of something called a caloric deficit. So it doesn't matter if you're doing keto, intermittent fasting, paleo, low fat, Weight Watchers, sugar-free, whole, whatever, right? It has all different mechanisms of why it works, but the truth of why it works is actually because it puts you in a caloric deficit, okay? Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you right now, don't worry, it is going to make sense to you. But the thing is that so many people go through life literally struggling with their weight, not knowing what's going on, and all they need to know is learn what a caloric deficit is, and they don't need to spend thousands of dollars and so many years being frustrated and being confused and lost. But the truth is that nobody breaks down these areas of life in simple concepts that are foundational that would just click in somebody's mind, so that way they would never have to struggle again. Okay, and so this idea that there are basic foundational concepts, right? When we talk about learning the foundations, principles, fundamentals, and foundations, this idea that there are fundamentals, foundations, and principles, this applies to all of the other areas of life as well. This applies to wealth, relationships, and something greater. There's foundational principles that once you learn them inside of these categories of life, then it's like, wow, my eyes have been opened about what needs to actually happen, right? And the thing is that these principles and foundations can be learned in just a few hours and days. It doesn't have to be something you have to go and get a degree on, right? And then once you learn them, you'll never be confused ever again. And so there are millions of people that are struggling every single day with the Big Four, and all they need to do is learn the basic foundations, and they have all the knowledge that they need inside of that area of life, but nobody actually explains it to them that way. And so that is the number one thing, that is the first thing that we do inside of remote wellness, is that we actually help people learn the foundations inside of the area of life that we are focusing on and providing transformation in, okay? The second piece of this And the second piece of the definition is helping people become more conscious. Okay. What does that mean, helping somebody become more conscious? The thing is that most people in the big four live their life in the big four in complete heedlessness. Okay. They are completely going randomly, go with the flow. And most people have no idea where they are headed or what they want to get out of the big four, right? They have no idea what they are doing in their health, no idea what they're doing in their wealth, no idea what they're doing in their relationships, no idea what they're doing in their connection to something greater, okay? And here's the thing. If you have no idea what you want to get out of the big four, then you have no idea what you want to get out of life. Because remember, the big four are the big four areas of life, okay? And guess what? The truth is we only have one life. And so many people live their one life randomly, and they never actually amount to anything, okay? They're literally left not being content. They end up complaining and miserable and blaming others when they themselves have no idea what they actually wanted to get out of life. And so this is a very popular example that I do give a lot of times in the coaching calls. This is something that I will give as an example, is imagine if you were randomly at the airport, okay? And you randomly got on a random flight and you had no idea where you were headed. There's a chance that you might end up going to Siberia. If you don't know what Siberia is, it's kind of like the North Pole, okay? And so you can't really complain if you ended up in Siberia because you were just going through the airport randomly, just getting on random flights. You might end up in a completely random place, okay? And so the truth is that most people are doing that with life. They're just going through life randomly and they have no idea where they are headed in the big four. Okay. And then the crazy thing about that is that they then complain when they end up in Siberia, right? And so they end up in a place that they did not want to be, and then they end up complaining about it. That's the crazy thing. And so when you say that we're helping people become more conscious, what we're saying is that we're helping them become more deliberate and more mindful. Okay. Because when you become more deliberate, more mindful, and more conscious in each of the big four, it means you have a purpose within each of them. It means you have a clear vision of where you are going in each of those key areas of your life. It means making deliberate, mindful, and conscious decisions in each of those big four, okay? And so that is the second piece of what we do as remote wellness practitioners, is help people become more deliberate, mindful, and conscious in the big four. Awesome. Now, the third piece of this, and the third piece of this definition, is helping people manage stress, okay? And so in each of the big four, there are going to be obstacles, difficulties, and stressors that come up. Whenever anybody tries to go ahead and better their health, wealth, relationships, or their connection to something greater, okay? There is going to be difficulties that come up. But the truth is that it's not the problem itself that gives us stress. It's our response to that problem and how we manage those stressors, okay? This is a quote that I really love. Your response to a problem is always more important than the problem itself. Your response to a problem is always more important than the problem itself, okay? And so managing stress means learning to regulate your response. And this might come in the form of learning to regulate our emotions or learning coping mechanisms and what we do when something happens, right? We got to learn different coping mechanisms, okay? And so, yes, we are all going to feel stress and pressure and difficulty in each of the big four, but the question is, are we equipped with the skill set and the habits of knowing how to manage that stress, okay? And this is what we do as remote wellness practitioners, is help our clients understand that and help them regulate and manage that stress. And this is how you will learn how to do that for yourself as well, okay? So that is the third piece of the definition when we say we help people with remote wellness. Let me go on over here, right here, right? Wellness is about helping people have transformation and live well in each of the four areas of life by learning the foundations, becoming more conscious, and managing stress. So we've talked about each of those pieces of the definition now. What I want to go into now towards the end of this training is going ahead and circling back around, why are we going to be focusing on health first, okay? And the truth is that the reason we're focusing on health first is because more people are in pain with their health than ever before. Obviously on the screen right now, you can see that I have a number of statistics on there. I'm not going to dive into each of these statistics, but the point being is that people are in more pain when it comes to their health than ever before. And so that's not only the case. If we look at with heart disease right now is the number one killer in the world. More than 17.9 million people die every single year from heart disease. And the crazy thing about that is that 90% of those deaths are preventable. That means that out of 17.9 million people that die every single year from heart disease, 16 million could have been saved just through simple lifestyle change. That's insane. And so the area of health wellness has the biggest impact in someone's life. And for you as a beginner remote wellness practitioner, it's going to be the easiest for you to get started with and making amazing income doing it. Okay. Now, obviously, I do understand that all 4 areas of life are connected. And so what that means is that sometimes in order to help somebody with their health, you might have to, at a surface level, help them with one of the other 3. But the important distinction here is that your major focus is always going to be on the primary area of life that you're focusing on. However, like we said, as you become more experienced as an RWP and as you understand how the process works more, you will be able to expand and help other people with other areas of life as well as the main area of transformation. Okay, cool. So that is the training on what is remote wellness. What you want to go ahead and do now is it would be awesome for you to go ahead and drop a comment inside of the student community and let us know what are your thoughts on why remote wellness is so amazing for you specifically, right? What was it about this training and defining remote wellness that was the most eye-opening for you? And for you specifically, why is it that remote wellness is so amazing? Again, just as a reminder, this is your opportunity to engage. We and the other students love to hear from you, and we do read all of your comments, and I will catch you on the next training.